This is not just a gentle invitation. This is your final alert, your spiritual siren ringing out one last time before the answer that you cried out for moves beyond reach. And I need you to understand this with every fiber of your being. I have waited. I have watched. I have been patient beyond measure. But now the moment has arrived where your window is narrowing, and my hand is extending one more time to deliver what your soul groaned for in the midnight hours when no one saw your tears, when no one heard your desperate cries, when you were convinced that even I had turned away. Yet I did not turn. I did not abandon. I was preparing, and while you were counting days in silence, I was aligning heaven and earth, setting people in motion, shifting timelines, moving pieces you couldn't even see into position so that the answer would arrive not just in your imagination but in your reality. But child, listen to me now, with trembling urgency. Your hesitation in this divine moment could cost you more than you think, more than delay, more than discomfort. It could cost you your place in what I've been building, because answers are not always wrapped in comfort. They come dressed in instructions, in obedience, in movement that looks like risk. And if you keep waiting for it to look like what your flesh wants, you will miss what your spirit has needed all along, and I will not hold it forever at your doorstep while you debate with your doubts. This is not a time to analyze. This is a time to act, to move, to open the door with trembling trust even if your knees shake, because I have positioned this blessing precisely, intentionally, supernaturally to meet you where you are. And if you ignore this knock, if you distract yourself again with the noise of the world, if you bury yourself in excuses or wait for others to approve what only I have ordained, you will find yourself staring at a door that once stood open, now closed with a silence that speaks of what could have been. So I am saying this now not with condemnation but with a holy intensity. This is your final warning to open before it's too late, not because I want to frighten you, but because I want to protect you from the grief of missed timing, from the heartbreak of what you'll never fully understand once it's gone. Because yes, I am merciful, but I am also precise, and this moment is not just about you getting something, it's about you becoming someone who can carry it, who can steward it, who can sustain what I give you without turning it into an idol or abandoning it when it gets heavy. So let your fear break now, let your confusion dissolve under the weight of my clarity, because what you're feeling in your spirit is me, calling you, urgently, seriously, lovingly, but firmly. Open now, not later, because I have waited long enough. And now that you stand at the edge of this moment, child, I need you to prepare your heart for something you didn't plan, because the answer is not wrapped in the version you imagined. It's arriving in the shape of growth, of truth, of divine rearrangement, and that means it may not match your preferences, but it will exceed your purpose. So do not be alarmed when what I send looks unfamiliar, or when the blessing knocks on your door wearing the robe of discomfort, because what's coming was never meant to be packaged by your prediction. It was designed to fit my vision, not your limited view. And if you're still looking through the lens of past disappointments, you'll miss the beauty of how I've responded to you this time. In your darkest hours, I heard what no one else could interpret, the cries that didn't even have words, the pain you tried to suppress in front of others but spilled out when you were alone with your pillow soaked in surrender. And I want you to know, not just feel, that I took that broken prayer and turned it into a divine release, one that bypassed logic and formality, one that reached into the unseen and stirred up a solution that no human plan could have ever generated. But here's what must be said now with urgency. If you're holding too tightly to your assumptions, you'll reject what I handcrafted to heal you, because my answer is not always soft, it's not always quiet, and it's not always predictable. Sometimes it enters like a fire to consume what's been keeping you hostage. Sometimes it arrives like a storm to uproot every lie you've built comfort around. Sometimes it looks like loss before it reveals the fullness of gain. And right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing the thing that you need in the form you're not expecting. So open your spirit, not just your eyes, because if you lean only on what you see, you'll misjudge what I'm doing. And child, this is not the time to question me based on appearance. This is the time to trust me based on history. Because have I ever left you in ruin? Did I not carry you through valleys when you thought you wouldn't last another day? And yet here you are, breathing, standing, reading these very words not by accident, but because your spirit knows something urgent is shifting, something final is forming. So do not delay by trying to dissect what I've already declared. Do not sit back waiting for comfort when I'm calling for courage, because the promise is approaching, but it demands your maturity, your surrender, your ability to recognize me even when I don't come the way you thought I would. This is your moment to receive by faith, not by familiarity, because the answer is already in motion, and the only thing left is your response. And I say again with piercing clarity, it is arriving differently, but it is arriving, and if you want to walk in it, you must let go of the version you made in your mind. If only you could see what I see, you would realize how loudly heaven has been trying to get your attention, not just through dreams or feelings, but through disruptions, alignments, interruptions, and divine tension that you keep mislabeling as coincidence or confusion. Yet none of it has been random, none of it without reason. Every closed door was orchestrated, every delayed outcome was deliberate, and every stirring in your spirit was a holy nudge that this is not just another season. This is the hour where your response carries eternal weight, and still I find you hesitating at the threshold, waiting for another confirmation when I've already spoken through the wind, through the faces of strangers, through scriptures that pierce deeper than usual, through the timing of people entering and exiting your life like clockwork. And I must now ask you, what more do you need to believe that it is me? What more must I do to make it undeniably clear that what I am offering is not just change but deliverance? The indicators are not subtle anymore. They are shouting, screaming for your attention. Relationships are shifting suddenly. Your comfort zones are cracking. Your emotions are unexplainably intense, and the things you used to run to no longer satisfy. These are not breakdowns. They are breakthroughs disguised as spiritual pressure, the kind that demands a decision from you now, not later, because the more you delay, the more you expose your heart to deception, to settling for the familiar while forfeiting the miraculous. And I tell you this with urgency, not to frighten you but to awaken you. You are running out of time to respond passively. This isn't about missing a small opportunity. This is about forfeiting a divine moment that has been tailor-made with your name embedded in it. And if you keep waiting for the situation to look safe before you move, you'll find yourself bypassed by what you once begged for, because while you were analyzing, others were obeying. And I can no longer allow hesitation to be your master when I've called you to walk boldly. So I need you to recognize the divine in the details. I need you to discern that I am not just sending blessings, I am sending instructions within every disruption, guidance within every delay. And if your heart remains shut off to the way I'm speaking, you'll interpret my direction as disturbance and miss the very thing you've pleaded for. This is why I've turned up the volume around you. Why you can't seem to avoid the same message echoing from different sources. Why you keep feeling like something urgent is pulling on you, because it is, because I am. And I'm not doing this for drama. I'm doing this because your future is hinging on how you respond in this sacred hour. And I will not beg you, but I will warn you. The more you delay, the harder it will become to hear me clearly. And not because I'll stop speaking, but because your doubt will drown my voice if you let it grow unchecked. So break out of that indecision. Shatter the fear that has kept your heart on lockdown, because what I'm releasing requires an open heart, not a guarded one. And right now, the delay is not on my side. It's on yours, and you can shift that with one step, one act of surrender, one choice to stop doubting every sign and start acting like you believe what you asked me for, because this answer is not waiting for you to feel ready, it's waiting for you to stop resisting. You pleaded for clarity, and I responded, not just with words, but through moments so divinely timed that only spiritual blindness could call them accidental. Yet even now, you hesitate to recognize my voice because it's not echoing in the way you've been accustomed to. It's echoing in the spaces you've overlooked, the stillness that makes you uncomfortable, the lack of distraction that unnerves you, the quiet moments where your thoughts feel too loud to ignore. Those are not voids, they are vessels, sacred chambers, where I have chosen to amplify what your heart needs to hear without the interference of the world's chaos. And yet you still search for external signs when I've been whispering through your very breath, arranging encounters, stirring emotions you thought had long been buried, reigniting convictions you've been trying to silence. And child, if only you knew how loudly I've been moving inside your stillness, You would stop questioning and start bowing, because the absence of noise does not mean absence of presence. I've simply chosen to bypass your preferences so I could reach the part of you that doesn't lie, the part that doesn't pretend everything is okay, the part that aches for something deeper, for something real, and I am answering that ache not with more sound, but with revelation that lives in the quiet. But make no mistake, the quiet is not passive, it's sacred, and right now it carries more weight than all the noise that has ever surrounded you, because this is not about volume, it's about clarity, and I am being unmistakably direct through everything I allow and everything I withhold. That moment you felt unexplainable conviction. That wasn't your mind, it was my spirit confronting what you've been avoiding, and that sudden flood of emotion while reading a verse you've seen 1,000 times. That wasn't coincidence. It was me showing you that this message is alive and sharper than you realized. And now I need you to stop pretending you didn't hear me, to stop acting like you're confused when you already know what to do, because clarity has arrived not as a booming voice, but as a divine stillness that leaves no room for excuses. And I'm using even your unspoken thoughts to draw you closer. Even your silence is becoming a sanctuary where my direction is becoming undeniable. And if you keep looking for lightning when I'm speaking through the weight of your own breath, you'll miss the answer that's been forming inside your spirit for weeks. So pause and realize that I'm not hiding, I'm highlighting every word you've dismissed, every moment you brushed off as random, every stirring that interrupted your plans, because I'm speaking, and I will not stop until you see that I've been in the silence, in the timing, in the stillness you keep running from. This is not the moment to complain about feeling distant when I'm closer than I've ever been, waiting for you to respond not with noise, but with surrender, because clarity is not the issue anymore. Your alignment is, and if you would just sit with what I'm saying instead of rushing to ask me again, you would realize that I've been answering all along, through everything, even through the quiet moments you thought were empty, when in fact they were saturated with my voice. What you're standing in right now is not just another opportunity, it is a divine window, an opening in the timeline of your life that heaven carved out with precision, and it wasn't placed here by chance or convenience, but by strategy that stretches beyond your comprehension, and I need you to feel the weight of that, because there are moments that carry eternal weight. And this is one of them, and if you treat it casually or delay under the illusion that you'll have unlimited chances, you may watch this window close with no promise of another one in this specific season. And I don't say that to frighten you, I say it to awaken you, because too many times you've asked for another sign, another delay, another cycle of comfort before obedience. But this moment is different. This one is marked by urgency. This one has my hand pressing time into motion in a way that will not slow down to match your indecision, and I love you too much to let you sit in passivity while purpose walks past you, because what's being released right now is time-sensitive, spirit-driven, and deeply connected to what you've been praying for, and you cannot afford to blink and miss it. This window is the kind that changes trajectories, that shifts generations, that pulls you out of patterns and into position, and it's not coming dressed in fireworks or flashing lights. It's wrapped in the very instruction you've been hesitant to obey, the one that challenges you, stretches you, demands your trust beyond reason. And right now I need you to understand. The longer you wait, the more distant this moment will become, because divine openings don't stay open forever. They respond to obedience. They move in sync with surrender. And if your response doesn't match the urgency of my release, you'll find yourself in regret, not because I didn't love you, but because you wouldn't move when I called. And I've seen you delay before. I've seen you negotiate with fear. I've watched you stall your growth to protect your comfort. But this time is not like before. This is not a rehearsal. It's not a test run. It's the moment where my plans are colliding with your decisions, and whether you step into it or stand back will shape what you carry forward. So don't let another excuse steal this from you. Don't let the fear of unknowns rob you of the very promise you wept for, because answers don't always return in the next season. Some of them are tied to now, to this exact alignment, and if you let this pass, it won't come back looking the same, because I'm not obligated to preserve what you refuse to pursue. And this is not me turning away from you, this is me urging you with everything inside of me to open your eyes before the window begins to close, before the opportunity becomes memory, before the door becomes sealed by your silence, and while you still have breath, while you still feel that stirring deep in your chest, that unmistakable pull in your spirit that tells you something big is hovering over you, I need you to act, to rise, to move like your future depends on it, because in many ways it does, and the time to question has passed. The time to analyze has expired. This is the hour to obey while the window remains within reach, while the oil is still flowing, while the invitation is still open, because once this moment lifts, it may not return in this form again. And I don't want you looking back wondering what could have been. I want you walking forward knowing what is becoming. This very moment wasn't born out of chance. It was birthed from layers of intentional movement in the unseen, where I rearranged timelines, rerouted paths, and even disrupted the direction of others' lives, not to cause harm, but to align everything so that what I've been preparing for you would collide with your current position, because what I'm doing in your life is far too precise to be labeled as luck or coincidence. And I want you to understand. I've involved angels, adjusted atmospheres, even removed certain individuals from your proximity, not because they were bad, but because they couldn't walk with you into what's next. And I knew if I didn't step in and interfere with your timeline, you'd still be entertaining voices that dulled your discernment and decisions that delayed your destiny. And while you were wondering why certain doors slammed shut, why relationships shifted so abruptly, why opportunities disappeared right before you grabbed them, I was working in the background, shaping the pathway you didn't know you'd need, placing the exact people in place who would nudge you forward at the right time, silencing voices that were never meant to influence your future. And now that everything has been delicately arranged, you find yourself face to face with something that feels overwhelming because it's divine. And child, I need you to see it for what it really is. Not a test of survival, but a moment of supernatural release, the kind that only comes after divine construction has been completed. And while you may not have seen the blueprint, you are now standing on the threshold of what was built around your calling. I moved the pieces of your story into place even when you didn't realize it, and what felt like detours were really redirections. What felt like heartbreaks were actually heavenly edits. And now that everything is positioned, I'm handing this to you and watching closely, not because I doubt you, but because this part requires your agreement, not just your desire. And I want to tell you something sacred. No one else could have walked this road and reached this intersection, because this journey was designed around your voice sprint, your tears, your choices, your calling, and it is deeply personal. You were not skipped. You were being synchronized. And while others received their answers earlier, yours required divine layering, specific timing, and spiritual maturity that took longer because the weight of what I'm placing in your life demands a deeper root system. And so I waited, and I moved what needed moving, until everything fell into alignment. And now, here you are, and here I am, and I'm not holding back anymore. I'm placing this answer right within your reach, but you must see how much heaven has already labored to bring it this close. And you must not let it slip by simply because it doesn't look like what you imagined, or because it feels unfamiliar, or because it's wrapped in a responsibility you weren't expecting. This moment was handcrafted, not just for your relief, but for your release. So don't look away now. Don't hesitate. Don't shrink back into old versions of yourself when the entire kingdom has been mobilized to bring you forward. Because I've done my part, child. I moved what had to move. I fought off what tried to block you. I allowed time to stretch in your favor, and all that's left now is your yes. There's a heaviness in this moment, not to weigh you down, but to impress upon your spirit how close you are to crossing into what you've longed for, and yet how dangerously thin the margin is between stepping forward and losing what was tailor-made for your life. Because while I am merciful, I am also just, and time has a divine rhythm, not ruled by clocks or calendars, but by obedience and readiness. And I need you to know this. Every delay has a price, and while I have covered you in previous seasons, while I have waited with you, fought for you, and even extended certain deadlines in my grace, you must understand that this hour is different. This is a threshold moment where delay no longer just slows you down. It risks disconnecting you from the very outcome you've been fasting for, crying out for, sacrificing for. And I say this not to wound you, but to wake you. because you've reached the final line where another postponement may not only close the door but shift the entire course of what I intended to place in your hands. And I know the battles you've endured, the confusion that clouded your sight, the mental warfare that made you freeze in fear, and I've covered those moments. I've held you through them. But now the cloud has lifted, the pathway is open, and the burden to move rests on you, not on another confirmation, not on another delay, not on someone else's permission. And I must speak this clearly to your soul. Hesitation is no longer a harmless decision. It is now a risk with eternal consequence, because what you are on the edge of receiving was built for now, not for when you feel emotionally ready or fully qualified. And that's the trap of the enemy, to make you think that every delay is neutral, that every pause is harmless. But what he doesn't want you to realize is that time moves on, and so does opportunity, and some doors are not about being earned, but being entered at the exact moment I assign, and I've brought you to that moment now, not next week, not next season. This is the now that you've prayed for without realizing it would come with this much pressure, because the closer you get to fulfillment, the more the cost rises, and what's required of you now is not more questions, but movement that silences every whisper of fear, every voice of hesitation, every narrative that told you to wait for perfect alignment when in fact, the alignment has already been declared in heaven. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, has delay ever helped you hear me clearer, or has it only opened the door to confusion and compromise? Because when you know it's me, when your spirit confirms that my fingerprint is all over this, delay no longer becomes a matter of wisdom. It becomes disobedience disguised as waiting, and I'm telling you now with divine urgency, this is not the hour to let doubt dress up as discernment. This is not the hour to overthink what has already been revealed. You've waited long enough. You've wandered long enough, and now, if you don't take the next step, it's not that I love you less, but you may watch someone else carry what was once prepared for you. Not because I wanted it that way, but because I gave you every chance to trust me and act, and the final opportunity doesn't stay on pause waiting for your comfort to catch up. It waits only long enough to see if your obedience is louder than your fear, and right now, I need that obedience. I know it feels like everything around you is shaking, unraveling, collapsing into confusion. But what you're calling chaos, I call clearing, because what I'm doing right now isn't punishment, it's preparation. And this storm you're walking through is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to strip away what has been silently sabotaging your destiny, what has been standing in the way of what I've ordained for you. And child, hear me clearly. The disruption, the sudden endings, the exposure of hidden things, the unsettling shift in what used to feel stable, all of it is evidence that I am moving with urgency to make room for what I've already released in the Spirit. And if I allowed you to hold on to what was comfortable, you'd miss what is coming, because the answer you cried for requires space, and I cannot pour into a vessel that is still full of what I never approved. So I'm tearing down what you didn't realize was limiting you. I'm pulling back the curtain on agreements you made in silence, on beliefs you picked up from pain, on routines that dulled your ability to hear me. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels like loss. Yes, it feels confusing. But just like a gardener must rip up the weeds before new growth can rise, I'm uprooting what you settled for so I can plant what is sacred. And this storm is my hand, not in rage, but in mercy, clearing the path before you, because what's ahead is too holy to be contaminated by the things you clung to in seasons of fear. And I know you feel overwhelmed, but that's because you're watching me dismantle what once gave you a false sense of peace, a shallow form of security. And I can't let you go another step with what's been draining you behind the scenes. That's why it's all happening now. That's why the very things you thought you needed are being shaken out of your grasp. Because I've heard your prayers. I've seen your heart. And I refuse to let you miss what I'm doing just because it's uncomfortable in the process. And so I'm sending this storm, not to scare you, but to sanctify the space around you. Because my answer doesn't dwell in clutter. It descends into readiness. And this is what readiness looks like. The removal of idols, the collapse of false dependencies, the exposure of every influence that tried to compete with my voice. And if it feels like you're losing more than you can handle, it's only because I'm giving more than you expected. and what's on its way cannot coexist with what you've tolerated in silence. So let me clear it. Let me tear it down. Let me stir the winds until the things that don't belong can no longer stay standing, and don't panic in the pressure. Praise me in the process, because this is not devastation. This is divine transition, and if you'll stop trying to hold on to what I'm removing, you'll see that the storm is not against you. It's for you. It's me answering your cry for more, for clarity, for breakthrough, and this is how breakthrough begins, not in still waters, but in the storm that reveals what can't survive where you're going. So endure it. Trust it. Walk through it with your eyes on me, because once the dust settles, you'll realize this wasn't destruction. It was the first visible sign that your answer was already on its way. Declarations are powerful, but they are incomplete without demonstration, and what I am requiring from you in this moment is not another vow of faith whispered in the shadows, but visible steps that prove your confidence in me is more than emotional expression, because trust without movement is not trust at all, and I have heard every tear-drenched prayer you've offered. I've seen you cry out for direction, for deliverance, for clarity, and I responded. But now the answer stands in front of you, and what I am looking for is not a repeat of your petitions, but the action that confirms your heart believes I am who I say I am, and I'm saying this now with all love but full weight. The season of simply speaking is over. This is the hour to walk, to act, to leave behind the familiar comforts and step fully into the obedience that your soul has been delaying, and I'm not demanding perfection. I'm inviting trust that manifests through surrender, through steps that don't make sense, through movements that cost something, because talk is cheap in the realm of the Spirit, and while many can speak my name, few will truly follow when the cost is their comfort. And I'm calling you into that deeper place, that higher level, where your yes is not conditional, where your obedience is not contingent on what you see or feel, because faith that only functions when it understands everything is not faith at all, and I am testing what you've proclaimed with your lips to see if it's anchored in your decisions, not just your declarations. And this is why you feel the weight now, why your spirit knows something is shifting, because I'm requiring more than words. I'm drawing from the faith you've been growing in private, and it's time for it to be revealed in how you respond when I ask for what's uncomfortable, when I lead you into the unknown without offering full explanation. Can you still say yes when the outcome is uncertain? Can you still walk forward when the steps are unfamiliar but my voice is undeniable? Because that's where your true devotion shows, not in how loudly you worship, but in how quickly you move when I speak. And child, this moment right here is where the line is drawn between what is spoken and what is lived. And I am not here to shame you. I am here to push you, to stretch your trust until it becomes visible, not just for me to see, but so that you can finally witness what I can do when someone fully yields without resistance. Because the breakthroughs, the answers, the miracles, they are not waiting for more prayers. They are waiting for obedience, for boldness, for surrender in motion. And you've prayed enough to prove that you desire me. But now I want to see that you believe me, and that belief cannot remain invisible any longer, not in this hour, not when so much hinges on your next move, and I need you to hear this clearly. You don't need more confirmations. You need more courage, and I've already placed that courage inside of you. I've already made the way clear. The only thing left is for you to walk in it, not because you feel ready, but because I've already made you able. So now, let your trust rise beyond your words. Let it be proven in the sacrifice, in the steps, in the obedience that unlocks what you've been waiting to see manifest before your eyes. What you've been asking for isn't just approaching. It's already arrived in seed form, wrapped not in the ease you hoped for, but in a moment that demands maturity, because real breakthrough never walks in gently. It confronts, it exposes, and it presses you into decisions you've delayed making for far too long. And what you're experiencing right now is not resistance from the enemy, but refinement from me, because I cannot give you the fullness of what's coming until you are ready to receive it with wisdom, and wisdom only grows in the soil of correction, in the heat of hard choices, in the place where your will collides with mine. And child, I need you to understand this clearly. You're not being punished, you're being positioned, and the tension you feel is the stretching of your capacity, the divine discomfort that comes when I open the door but require you to walk through it transformed, not halfway, not holding on to your old habits, not dragging familiar compromise behind you, but fully surrendered to what I'm asking from you now, because the breakthrough isn't just a blessing, it's an assignment, and I won't let you carry it if it's going to crush you later. So I've built this moment to be both a mirror and a bridge, a mirror to show you where your flesh still fights, and a bridge to carry you into a version of yourself that's fully aligned with my will. And yes, I know it's uncomfortable. I know it feels like you're being pushed to the edge, but that edge is exactly where faith begins, where comfort ends and glory begins to rise, and this is where many stop, right at the door of what they've cried for, because they expected breakthrough to feel like a celebration, not a confrontation. But I'm not giving you something shallow. I'm handing you something sacred, and it comes with the requirement of realignment, because I cannot place power in hands that still cling to pride. I cannot release favor to hearts still negotiating partial surrender. And what I'm asking from you now is complete trust that what I'm correcting in you is not rejection. It's protection. It's love that disciplines, not to wound, but to prepare you for what I've already declared over your life. And these decisions that feel heavy, that seem to come all at once, they are not random. They are strategically timed with what I'm about to unlock. And your willingness to obey in this pressure will determine what I can release in the next phase. Because not every breakthrough comes with applause. Some arrive with holy silence and deep inward shifts that no one else can see but me. And I see you. I see the tug of war happening within your soul right now. The part of you that wants to hold back just one thing, that wants to delay just a little longer, that wants to take the answer without accepting the instruction. But I'm speaking to that hesitation now, and I'm calling it out because it cannot follow you into the new. It cannot ride on the back of your breakthrough, because what I'm giving you is weighty with purpose, and if you mishandle it, it will not grow. So choose rightly, even if it costs you convenience, even if it stretches your identity, even if it separates you from people who don't understand, because this moment of correction is not a detour. It is the last step before full release, and I love you too much to let you cross that line carrying what was never meant to enter your next chapter. What's unfolding in this moment is far deeper than a response to your latest request. This is not merely about fulfilling a need, calming a storm, or opening a door you've knocked on. This is about aligning you with the very reason you were placed on this earth, the deeper calling that has been buried beneath layers of distraction, compromise, and survival mode, because I never created you just to get by or to accumulate temporary victories. I formed you to reflect my glory through your existence, and what I'm doing now is not just to satisfy your temporary season, but to activate what has been locked inside you since before your first breath. And this is why things feel different, heavier, more intense, because I'm not moving in surface-level blessings this time. I'm digging into the core of who you are, the original blueprint I designed with divine strategy, the one you've forgotten in the noise of life, in the pain of disappointment, in the years of waiting. And now, child, I'm calling it forth. I'm answering the hidden groan in your spirit, the one you didn't even know how to put into words, the cry for meaning, for significance, for more than just survival. And this is why the process has taken time, why I couldn't rush what you begged me to hurry, because what I've been preparing was never just a response to your circumstances. It was a release of your identity, your authority, your unique assignment in the kingdom. And now that the appointed time has arrived, I'm not simply giving you what you wanted. I'm unveiling what you carry, what you were created for. And yes, it will demand more from you. Yes, it will challenge your routines, but that's because purpose always stretches the vessel it flows through. And I know you thought you were waiting for a specific outcome, but what I was truly building was the capacity in you to steward something eternal, something that shifts atmospheres and unlocks generational restoration. And this is why the old ways won't work anymore, why the small thinking feels unbearable now, because you've outgrown who you used to be, and this version of you cannot hold the weight of what I'm sending. That's why the pressure increased. That's why the pruning felt personal, because I wasn't just removing what didn't serve you. I was making space for the glory that's about to be revealed through your life. And so now, as I place this in your hands, as I open this spiritual window, I need you to realize that what you're stepping into is more than an answered prayer. It's a divine appointment, one that's been set on heaven's calendar long before you even realized what you were made for, and it's not just for your benefit. It's for everyone your obedience will impact, for the lives connected to your yes, for the generations that will trace their breakthrough back to your surrender. And so do not treat this moment lightly. Do not shrink back or try to manage it like something ordinary. This is holy ground. This is legacy. This is purpose emerging from the shadows, and it will come with weight, with responsibility, with decisions that pull you away from comfort. But it will also come with joy, with clarity, with the deep fulfillment that only comes when you know, without a doubt, that you are finally walking in why you were created. So lift your eyes, adjust your posture, and prepare yourself, not just to receive, but to carry what I am pouring into your life, because this is more than provision. This is purpose unfolding. The hesitation you feel is not about confusion. It's about clinging, holding on to fragments of what once gave you comfort, but can no longer sustain the version of you I am calling forth. And I see how tightly your heart has gripped certain relationships, environments, habits, and even internal narratives that feel safe, but are suffocating the expansion I have been patiently preparing you for. And now we stand at this holy edge, where your next step will either break you free or bind you to what was only supposed to be temporary. And I need you to hear me clearly. If you dare to open fully in this moment, if you let go of the safety net of familiarity, you'll finally realize that what you were afraid of losing was never part of the future I scripted for you. It was a placeholder, a classroom, a setup for something greater. And the only reason it still feels so weighty is because you've given it more authority in your story than I ever intended. And yes, I know you mourn what used to be. I know your soul still echoes with memories of who you were and what you built around that version. But I am not asking you to destroy what was. I'm asking you to release it with reverence so you can receive what's real, what's now, what's ordained. Because the longer you try to drag yesterday into this unfolding chapter, the more exhausted you will become. And the truth is this: I never called you to carry what can't evolve with you, and I never asked you to preserve what I've already stripped my oil from. And the reason you feel resistance when you try to revive certain things is because I have already moved on from them. Not in anger, but in wisdom, because I know what's ahead, and I know what can't come with you. And it's not about rejecting what you once loved. It's about making room for what will last, for what will multiply, for what aligns with your future, and not just your feelings. And child, there is so much peace waiting for you on the other side of release, so much clarity once you loosen your grip on what no longer serves the destiny I've declared over your life. And I need you to realize that clinging to the wrong things is no longer just a delay. It is a danger, because this window of movement will not remain open indefinitely. And I am speaking to your spirit right now, urging you to trust that letting go is not the same as losing. Letting go is obedience. It is alignment. It is maturity that recognizes when something has run its course and when my voice is asking you to rise instead of retreat. And I know you're afraid that what comes next may not fill the space left behind. But I promise you this: what I'm bringing is not just replacement, it's restoration. And it will fill every gap. It will heal what felt fractured, and it will exceed the emotional value you attached to what was never meant to stay. So do not fear the void, for I have already planted purpose inside it. And when you finally step forward and open your heart with nothing held back, you will look back and realize that what you thought was loss was actually the mercy that made room for the miracle. And this moment, right now, is your invitation to release the fragments, trust the process, and walk boldly into the portion I've reserved just for you. I see the pressure pressing on every side of your life right now, the internal war between wanting to rest and being pushed to act, the mental heaviness that you can't explain to others, the spiritual weight that keeps increasing even when you think you've already surrendered everything. And I need you to know this isn't happening because you failed, or because I'm disappointed, or because you're being punished. It's happening because something inside of you is being brought to completion, and that kind of spiritual transition is never light, never silent, never simple. It carries weight because what is being birthed carries glory, and I cannot let you enter into it carelessly. Not with unresolved clutter, not with half-formed vision, not with compromised identity. And so, this pressure is not against you, it's working for you. applying holy tension to everything in you that still clings to comfort when I've called you to courage, pushing out every hidden layer that would weaken the foundation I'm about to build upon. Because, child, you've asked me to make you ready. You've asked for more, and I've said yes. But readiness looks like refining, and that refining happens in the squeeze. When the familiar caves in, and you are forced to either fight my hand or trust my heart. When nothing around you affirms what I whispered to your spirit, but you hold on anyway. When even your own emotions betray you, and all you have left is the knowledge that I do not lie. And this is where you are right now, not being pressed for destruction, but being compressed for strength, being made unshakable so that what I place in your hands won't break you. And yes, it feels like you're running out of energy, but you're not being drained. You're being emptied of what can't go with you into this next move, because you can't carry old weight into new glory. And I'm stripping it away with divine urgency, not because I want to see you uncomfortable, but because I know how short the time is and how vital your role will be in what I'm building next. And so I've allowed the pressure, the spiritual contractions, the emotional stretching, not to torment you, but to propel you, to awaken you, to elevate your discernment and discipline, because the days ahead will require more than emotional excitement. They will require spiritual authority, and that kind of authority is only forged in the place you're standing now, the place where flesh gets quiet and the spirit takes command, the place where endurance becomes worship, and brokenness becomes the doorway into the deeper chambers of my presence. And I'm telling you right now, the breaking is not the end. It is the final moment before release, the last test before the unlocking, and you are closer than you think. But you must not give up in this intensity. You must not mislabel it as abandonment when it is really preparation, because what I'm shaping in you is not temporary success. It's eternal impact, and it cannot be rushed or skipped. And though the weight feels unbearable at times, I am with you in the middle of it, strengthening your shoulders, reinforcing your resolve, and whispering what the world cannot hear, that your release is imminent, that this tightness is the signal that the transition is complete, and that all you've endured is about to be redeemed in a way you never imagined. So don't resist the pressure. Lean into it, because when I lift my hand, you won't just step into something. You'll emerge as someone transformed, anointed, and completely aligned with the assignment I've written over your life since the beginning. This quiet you've been walking through has not been a sign of my absence. It has been the final corridor of transition, the sacred space where your faith is being tested without noise, where your spirit is being sharpened in the stillness that feels like delay but is actually divine suspense. And I know it feels as though the heavens have paused, as if your prayers have echoed into a void, but that silence has been filled with movement you cannot see. And while you've been waiting to hear me speak again, I've been orchestrating a sequence that doesn't require your understanding, only your trust, because what's coming next is not subtle. It is the response that reshapes everything, and I'm giving you this final moment of stillness so that when the answer arrives, you won't miss it, you won't confuse it, and you won't be unprepared to step through the door I'm about to open. This is not a delay. This is preparation disguised as quiet. This is me allowing your heart to settle, your mind to reset, and your eyes to clear from all the noise that used to keep you distracted, because what I'm about to release will demand your full attention, and I could not give it to you until you were able to distinguish my movement without needing confirmation from others, and that's what this silence has done. It has trained you to hear me in the unseen, to recognize me without the need for signs, and that kind of discernment only grows when all external voices are stripped away. So while you thought you were being forgotten, you were actually being refined, matured, brought into a place of sensitivity where you now feel even the slightest shifts in the spirit. And that, child, is the proof that the silence is not punishment, it's promotion, because I'm about to break it with a sound so clear, so undeniable, that every question you've held will collapse under the weight of clarity. And I don't want you to be startled. I want you to be ready, because when my answer knocks, it won't be in the form of what you lost. It will look like something entirely new, something you didn't know to ask for, something that interrupts your routine with destiny. And in that moment, when the knock comes, your response will matter more than your feelings, because it won't wait for comfort. It will demand faith. It will require you to move quickly, boldly, and with the confidence that this is what you were being shaped for all along, and so do not misread this final moment of quiet as failure or abandonment. See it for what it is, the stillness before my sound enters your life like a key in a locked door. The hush before the curtain is lifted and what I've been building behind the scenes is revealed. And even now, I am closer than ever, and what you thought was inactivity has actually been the positioning of your spirit, so that when my answer reaches you, you won't shrink back in fear or question if it's real. You'll know, deeply and instantly, because I have trained you in this silence to recognize my touch without needing to see my hand. So stand in this moment, not with despair, but with expectancy, for the stillness is ending, and the next sound you hear won't be silence anymore. It will be the arrival of what I promised, knocking on the door of your obedience, waiting for your response. This moment requires more than belief. It requires immediate alignment, because what I've whispered to your spirit is not a suggestion. It's a directive woven into the fabric of your timeline, and if you treat it casually, if you postpone what I've clearly marked as urgent, you will step into a stretch of waiting that was never necessary, and mistakenly interpret the silence that follows as rejection, when in truth, it was hesitation that closed the door. Not my will, but your reluctance to act when the Spirit moved, and I say this to you with great compassion but greater urgency. I do not withhold breakthrough from those who obey, but I will not bend my timing to suit comfort or fear, and right now, the instruction I've given you, the one that keeps resurfacing in your heart, the one you've wrestled with in your thoughts, the one that feels too big, too costly, too fast, that is the gate to what you've been crying out for. And if you choose to delay, the opportunity won't vanish forever, but it will move beyond this divine window, and the clarity you currently carry may begin to fade, not because I stop speaking, but because prolonged disobedience dulls discernment. And then, what once felt vivid becomes vague, what once stirred your spirit becomes blurred by regret, and I don't want that for you, child. I don't want you stuck in cycles of confusion when I've already handed you the key, and it's in your response, not your emotions, that the door will unlock. So don't ask me to do again what I've already completed. Don't stand still praying for confirmation when you already know the path but are hoping for a more convenient one to appear, because I will not reroute your purpose to fit your fears, and what's at stake right now isn't just another answered prayer. It's your momentum, your acceleration, your position in what I've prepared, and if you let this moment pass you by, you will still be loved, still be mine, but you will enter a season of unnecessary delay, and I don't want you to confuse that delay for denial, because denial comes when something isn't mine to give, but this is already yours, already written, already cleared for release. It only waits on your action, and action cannot be replaced by intention. I am not moved by plans never started, by dreams never pursued, by promises you hoped to keep but never prioritized. I move when your feet match your faith, when your movement mirrors your trust, when you follow through without understanding everything, and that's the tension I'm calling you to press through right now, the space between the instruction and the impact, because every minute you postpone is a minute the enemy uses to plant doubt, to resurrect old insecurities, to tempt you with counterfeit versions of the very thing I've already prepared. And if you're not careful, the delay becomes deception, and what started as hesitation becomes confusion, not because I've changed, but because time outside of obedience becomes fertile ground for spiritual distortion. And I am warning you now because I love you, not because I am angry. I am giving you this chance to step back into rhythm, to walk fully in what I've designed, because once you move, clarity will increase, favor will accelerate, and doors that remain sealed will burst open in rapid succession. But it starts with doing what I've already said, not asking for another word, and the choice is now, not someday. So don't mistake the silence that follows your delay for my disapproval. It's not denial. It's the echo of a missed moment still waiting to be redeemed by your obedience. There are moments in your journey when my voice doesn't come as gentle encouragement, but as a call to urgent action, and this, child, is one of those moments, not merely a comforting word, not simply a reminder of my presence, but a direct alert sent to stir you awake from hesitation and break you out of the spiritual limbo that's been slowing down what I've ordained to be set in motion. because this is no longer about information. It's about activation. What I'm speaking to you now is not for later reflection but for present obedience, and I need you to treat these words as a divine dispatch, not background inspiration, but a signal from heaven carrying the weight of timing, the urgency of transition, and the authority of a Father who knows what's ahead. And if you continue treating this like another option on a list, rather than the lifeline it truly is, you'll look back and realize you were not waiting on me. You were simply avoiding what I already made clear. And I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying it to snap you out of the fog that has made you passive when I've been sending signal after signal, sign after sign, aligning conversations, interrupting patterns, disrupting your comfort, all to get your attention. And this message is not just insight, it's intervention, because I'm not just speaking to guide you, I'm stepping in to rescue you from the consequences of delay that are gathering just beyond your vision. The enemy is hoping you'll take this lightly, hoping you'll assume there's more time, more space, more chances to finally say yes. But I'm cutting through that lie right now with a direct word. This is the moment that defines what unfolds next. And yes, I know that sounds intense, because it is, because the call on your life is not casual, and what I've assigned to your hands is too critical to treat this instruction like a suggestion. So, stop scrolling past it. Stop minimizing what you feel stirring in your spirit. Stop waiting for more clarity when I've already given enough confirmation to require action, because this message isn't meant to be bookmarked. It's meant to be obeyed. And you've been asking me to speak. But now that I'm watching how you respond. Not because I need proof of your love, but because your next season hinges on how you treat this one. And I cannot bless what you continue to ignore. I cannot elevate what you hesitate to carry. And I cannot release what you refuse to make room for. So this alert, this holy disruption, is not about pressure. It's about protection. I'm protecting you from what happens when timing is mishandled. When you assume that grace means you'll always have another chance. But child, there are some moments I crafted with layers of purpose that are tied to precise windows. And while I am always with you, not every assignment waits indefinitely. And this is one of those moments that demands everything: your focus, your humility, your willingness to trust even when it costs you. Because the blessing you seek is tied to a choice you must make right now. And no, not everything will make sense in advance. And no, I will not show you the entire road before you begin. But I will meet you the moment your feet move. So respond, not just emotionally, but decisively. Shift your posture from wandering to walking, from asking to acting, from waiting to stepping, because what I'm saying now isn't just to inspire you, it's to position you. And if you respond with full surrender, what felt locked will begin to unlock, what felt stalled will begin to surge, and you'll see that this wasn't just another message, it was your wake-up call into movement. There comes a point where indecision becomes disobedience, not because you openly rejected me, but because you continually postponed what I clearly asked of you. And child, I have been waiting patiently, not for perfect conditions or flawless execution, but for a surrendered heart willing to step out with nothing but trust. Yet each time my spirit nudged you forward, you retreated to the safety of delay, to the comfort of uncertainty, hoping for more signs, more reassurance, more evidence that you wouldn't fail. But what I require from you now is not more analyzing, it's agreement. Your full, undivided, unconditional yes. Not the kind that depends on favorable timing or emotional readiness, but the kind that rises up from the deepest part of your soul and says, even if I don't feel prepared, I will follow, because this calling I've placed on your life does not wait on convenience, and the assignments connected to your obedience are time-sensitive, weighty, and transformational, not just for you, but for those attached to your voice, your hands, your presence. And with every moment you delay, you risk missing divine appointments that I specifically crafted for your impact, not someone else's. And I want you to understand this clearly. I'm not angry that you've wrestled with fear. I'm not disappointed that you've questioned your own capacity, but I am sounding the alarm now, because this is the moment where postponement is no longer harmless, it's costly. And I know what's ahead. I know what's building. I know what your yes will unlock. And I also know what your silence will close off. And that's why I keep returning to this place with you. Not because I need your ability, but because I've chosen your availability as the vessel for something heaven wants to release on earth, yet it cannot flow through hesitation. It cannot move through half-surrendered faith, and so I'm asking again, not gently, but urgently. Will you say yes? Not later, not someday, but now will you allow me to use you even while your hands are still trembling, even when the path ahead is uncertain, even when your heart feels exposed and vulnerable, because true obedience doesn't come when everything makes sense. It comes when you believe my voice more than you fear the unknown, and I've already proven myself faithful. I've already shown you glimpses, confirmations, and mercy over and over again, and now the door stands open, but it will not stay that way forever, and the opportunity will not wait indefinitely for your schedule to clear or your courage to fully grow. It is asking for your movement in the middle of uncertainty, your surrender in the middle of the stretch, your yes even when your voice shakes, and I promise you this: your yes will not be wasted. Your faith will not return void. What I will do through your obedience will not just bless you. It will ripple far beyond your reach, because I've woven your purpose into a greater plan, and it's time for that thread to be pulled into motion. But I cannot pull it if you're still tangled in excuses and you've been here long enough, circling the same mountain of doubt, asking the same questions, waiting for a version of clarity that will never arrive, because I've already given you enough to take the next step, and now I'm watching to see if you trust me more than your feelings, more than your logic, more than your fear. So I ask you one more time, will you give me your yes? Or will you delay what was never meant to be postponed? Because I'm not knocking on the door of your potential, I'm knocking on the door of your obedience, and what comes next depends on whether you open. You keep bringing me your requests, your longings, your desperation for breakthrough, but there's one thing I keep reaching for in return, the thing you still haven't released, and I need you to hear this clearly, not through fear, but through reverence. I cannot pour new oil into a vessel already filled with what you won't let go, and you've come so far, but now we've reached the place where your next level will not be unlocked through more praying or more waiting. It will only open through surrender, not partial, not temporary, but full release of what you've tried to keep hidden, of what you've disguised as wisdom when it's really been fear in costume. And this is not because I desire your pain, it's because I desire your healing. But healing cannot enter where idols are still guarded, where compromise is still negotiated, where old mindsets are still defended like treasures. And I know you feel torn, because what I'm asking you to lay down is something you've built identity around, maybe even stability, maybe even your sense of control. But child, what you've called protection has become a prison, and what you once surrender is now standing between you and what I've already prepared. And this moment is not just another invitation. It is a holy ultimatum, because my grace has covered you, carried you, and surrounded you time after time. But this hour is different. This is the edge of transformation, and it's not your tears I need. It's your release. The one act of yielding that proves your heart is truly mine, because I'm not interested in having parts of you. I want your entirety, the fragments, the brokenness, the desires you don't want to admit. I want them all. Not so I can crush them, but so I can redeem what was never meant to be held in isolation. And you've been wondering why you haven't seen movement, why the answer still feels distant. But the truth is, I haven't changed my mind about you. I'm just waiting for your hands to stop holding on to what I've been asking for, and I won't compete with it. I won't bless over it. I won't ignore it just because you want everything else to accelerate, because the weight of what's next demands purity. Not perfection, but yieldedness, and you're right at the line, standing at the threshold, and I'm saying this with holy urgency. If you hold on any longer, the door that's been waiting for you will not stay open, not because I'm angry, but because time is sacred, and what you're clinging to is connected to a season that's already expired. And I will not allow your calling to be suffocated by an attachment I never authored. So this is it, your moment to place it at my feet. Not just symbolically, but truly, fully, with no backup plan, with no conditions, because on the other side of this surrender is the answer you've cried for, and not just the answer, but the alignment you didn't realize you needed. Because when you let go, I release, and not before. And yes, I know it's hard, but my spirit will strengthen you if you will stop resisting. And I say this one final time, I can only build what you no longer block, and this is your chance to let me have what I've been asking for all along, your full trust, your full surrender. Not someday, but now, because the moment you truly release it, the moment you truly lay it down, is the moment I truly lift you up. Everything that once seemed urgent, but had no eternal value, is being stripped away, not to leave you empty, but to restore your ability to truly hear me without interference. You've been surrounded by so much noise, not just from the outside, but from within. Competing thoughts, endless comparisons, the weight of voices you allowed into sacred places that I never gave access to. And now, I'm doing something you didn't expect. I'm removing the clutter, the non-essential, the subtle distractions that seemed harmless on the surface but have been quietly dulling your spiritual sensitivity. You wondered why certain doors shut suddenly, why people pulled away without warning, why opportunities that looked promising vanished without reason. But I'm revealing it to you now. It was not rejection. It was protection. Those things weren't stolen. I removed them. Because I love you too much to let you miss my voice while being loyal to voices that distort it. And I'm not just removing obvious distractions. I'm dealing with subtle attachments, habits that crept in over time, responsibilities you picked up that I never assigned, opinions you began to value more than my instruction. I watched as your clarity slowly began to dim, not because you stopped believing in me, but because too many lesser things started competing with the still, sharp leading of my spirit. And now I'm drawing a line, not to punish but to purify. Because your discernment is precious. It's the compass I placed inside you to navigate this hour, and the enemy has worked overtime to fog it, to layer it with unnecessary obligations and emotional noise, until you questioned whether it was even me you were hearing. But I'm lifting that fog now, through disconnection, through refinement, through sudden shifts that seem jarring but are absolutely surgical. I'm removing the weights that numbed your intuition. I'm breaking the cycles that wore you out and called it productivity. I'm ending agreements with things that felt good but drained your strength and stole your focus. You may feel unsettled for a moment. You may feel lonely. You may even grieve the things I'm cutting away. But in the days ahead, you'll thank me, because what's returning is something priceless: clarity. You'll begin to see again. You'll begin to sense again. You'll no longer have to guess what I'm saying. You'll know. Because the static is being silenced. The counterfeits are being unmasked. And what's left will be clean, holy, and sharp. You won't need to force alignment. It will flow naturally because I'm restoring your rhythm with me. I'm making your inner space sacred again. And yes, there will be some hard goodbyes, not just to people, but to patterns. But you must trust the removal just as much as you trust the restoration. Because everything I'm removing is something that was interfering with what I'm releasing. You asked me to show you the way. You asked me to lead you deeper. You asked me for precision. And this is how I answer: by clearing the clutter that kept you unclear. This is not subtraction. It's sacred simplification. And when you begin to walk forward in this new space I'm creating, you will feel lighter, more focused, and more spiritually awake than you felt in years. This is what it looks like when I fine-tune your heart. This is what it means to be set apart. So don't resist the shaking. Don't try to cling to what I'm clearly shaking loose. Let it fall away. Let me protect what you can't yet see. Because once the distractions are gone, you'll remember the sound of my whisper again, and you'll never confuse it with the noise again. You've cried over doors that didn't open, questioned why people walked away, and doubted yourself when plans crumbled right before the breakthrough. But today, I need you to look again, not through the lens of disappointment, but through the clarity I'm now giving you. Every no, every loss, every silence that felt like abandonment was actually a divine rerouting, carefully guided by my hand so that you wouldn't settle for what would eventually steal your purpose. What you called rejection was me rescuing you from premature attachments that looked promising but would have entangled your calling. I saw the end from the beginning. I knew which opportunities would turn into traps, which connections would dilute your identity, and which moments were sent not to build you but to distract you. And so I interrupted them, not out of cruelty but out of protection. You saw it as a closed door, but I saw it as an escape route. You thought they left because you weren't enough, but I removed them because your next season couldn't afford their influence. What seemed like delay was really the divine detour necessary to align you with the exact moment you're standing in now. And I need you to know this: nothing was wasted. Not one tear, not one disappointment, not one battle. Every piece of pain served a purpose. Every unanswered prayer was a safeguard. Every redirection was me preparing the right place, the right moment, and the right version of you for something far greater than what you were reaching for. Because, child, what I've been constructing in the background required your full attention, your full surrender, and your maturity to recognize that your worth was never defined by what left. And now, you're arriving at the season you thought had passed you by. But you're not late. You're right on time, because I was always preparing you for this. The people who misunderstood you couldn't come where you're going. The situations that crumbled were not strong enough to carry the weight of what I'm placing on your life. The opportunities that dissolved were not aligned with your destiny, and I loved you too much to let you be deceived by temporary success. That's why it didn't work. That's why it felt like everything around you was falling apart when you were trying your best to hold it together. Because I had to remove your reliance on outcomes so I could restore your confidence in me. I needed your dependence to shift, not toward titles, approval, or outcomes, but toward me alone. And you're seeing it now. The closed door wasn't the end. It was the setup for something sacred. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. And while you were grieving what didn't happen, heaven was aligning what must happen. The space left behind by what I removed is now being filled with what is real, what is lasting, what is appointed, not just permitted. You'll no longer need to chase what I didn't ordain. You won't have to beg for seats at tables I never built for you. You're about to sit in rooms that don't require performance to belong. You're entering into what fits not just your gifts, but your identity. And this time, you'll walk with peace, not pressure, because it won't be forced. It will be favored. So release the weight of rejection. It was never about rejection. It was redirection, holy, intentional, and necessary, because I was steering you to this hour, this place, this opening that was designed not just for your prayers to be answered, but for your purpose to be fulfilled. Long before you saw anything changing on the surface, I was already moving beneath it, adjusting the condition of your heart so that when the fulfillment comes, it doesn't crush you but completes you. You've prayed with passion, pleaded with tears, and waited in the tension of silence, but what you called delay was actually the deep work I was doing within you, shaping your desires, stretching your trust, and anchoring your identity so that your answer wouldn't become an idol, and your blessing wouldn't breed pride. Because what you've asked me for requires more than excitement to sustain. It requires endurance, clarity, and the ability to carry responsibility without losing intimacy with me. And I love you too much to give you something prematurely, only for it to pull you away from the very posture that prepared you to receive it. You saw time passing and assumed I was absent, but I was never far. I was refining. I was pruning away the parts of you that would sabotage what's coming. I was softening places that had hardened from disappointment. I was silencing inner battles you didn't even know were still active. You wanted immediate results, but I wanted eternal fruit. And eternal fruit doesn't grow in shallow soil. That's why I allowed certain things to fall apart. That's why I shut down plans that you were so sure would succeed. That's why I kept you hidden while others were elevated, because I needed to form in you what applause could never teach you. I needed your faith to mature beyond emotional highs. I needed your dependence to shift from outcomes to me. And now, as you stand at the edge of the answer, I'm reminding you, I didn't forget. I didn't ignore your cry. I didn't turn away when you felt forgotten. I was shaping the inner vessel for the outer provision. Because if I had given you what you asked for back then, it would have overwhelmed you, distracted you, or been mishandled by the version of you that hadn't yet been healed. But now, something has changed. You're listening differently. You're discerning more quickly. You're responding to my whispers instead of waiting for the thunder. And that is what I was waiting for. The internal shift. The surrender that wasn't forced but chosen. Because now I can trust you with more. Now I can release what's been held in reserve. Not because you've earned it, but because you've been made ready through the refining. The time you thought was wasted was actually sacred preparation. The unanswered seasons were not empty. They were filled with divine adjustments that heaven was carefully orchestrating in your character. And now, as the answer draws closer, I am warning you with love. Do not step into this next place thinking it's only about receiving. It's about carrying. It's about representing. It's about knowing me deeper as the giver, not just rejoicing in the gift. I want to walk with you into this, not wave from a distance. I want your gratitude to grow, not just your comfort. I want this answer to draw you nearer, not make you drift into self-reliance. So remember this truth. I didn't delay to tease you. I delayed to transform you. And now, what I have built in you will be able to stand under what I am releasing to you. And this is only the beginning of the greater things I'm entrusting to your surrendered heart. There's a holy weight resting on this moment, not to create fear, but to press upon your heart the urgency of divine timing, because what's before you now is not an ordinary opportunity. It's a spiritually appointed gate, crafted and opened by my hand, calibrated to your growth, your readiness, and your position in this very hour. But I must tell you with clarity, this is not a permanent portal. It is open now, yes, but not indefinitely. It is aligned with what your heart has cried out for in secret, but it demands movement while the wind of my spirit is still stirring around it. If you delay, if you wait for every detail to make sense, if you hesitate because of fear, the door won't close out of punishment. It will close because the timing passed, and what was once within reach will shift to another season, not because I changed my mind about you, but because you didn't respond when my spirit signaled the shift. I'm not placing this before you to overwhelm you. I'm placing it here because I've already equipped you for it. But it will require trust that moves before comfort, faith that walks before everything is mapped out. I need you to recognize that the open door is not just about what you're walking into. It's about what you're walking away from. There are things behind you that can no longer travel with you into this next space, and the longer you linger in indecision, the more the residue of what was will begin to blur the clarity of what is. This is a line in the sand moment. Not just a shift in circumstances, but a shift in identity, your responsibility, in spiritual maturity. I've seen you wrestle. I've watched you pace the floor of your mind, weighing what you'll lose instead of what I'm offering. But child, listen. Everything I ask you to lay down is so I can place something eternal in its place. I never call you away from something without calling you into something greater. But I cannot force you through this door. I will not drag you through a threshold designed to be crossed willingly. This is where your agreement matters. This is where your boldness must speak louder than your comfort zone. Because there are blessings on the other side that are bound to this moment in time, tied to this specific opening, and if you choose to remain still, you may enter a season of longing for what could have been, not because I withheld it, but because I required your partnership, your yes, your action. This is the moment where heaven and earth are in sync around your life. The spiritual realm has been making room. The atmosphere has been charged with change. You felt it, sensed it, the stirring, the nudges, the divine discomfort that won't let you stay where you've been. That is the evidence that this door is not just opportunity, it's appointment. But you must walk. You must move. You must decide. Not later. Not eventually. Now. Because this door is not open forever, and the Spirit is leading now. Follow while the fire is fresh, while the anointing is flowing, while the path is clear, and watch how what once felt impossible unfolds with precision the moment your feet touch the threshold. I come before you. The way has been prepared. But the door will not remain open just because you're interested. It remains open for those who respond. What you've labeled as random or dismissed as subtle has been my consistent pursuit of your attention. The repeated numbers, the unexpected conversations, the dreams that stirred you awake, the exact words you needed showing up when you were about to give up. Those weren't accidents. They were divine markers, precise signals, tailor-made to pierce through your doubt and remind you that I've been speaking all along. But now it's time to stop treating the supernatural like it's circumstantial. I am not whispering for curiosity's sake. I'm revealing myself to summon your response. These are not vague signs. They are targeted revelations, strategically sent to confirm what your spirit already knows but your logic has been trying to silence. You've asked me to make it clear, and I have, over and over again. But because it did derive the way you imagined, you've been tempted to ignore what hath been obvious in the spirit. But I won't let you miss this, not now. Not when the stakes are this high. That's stirring inside of you every time you consider walking away. That's me. That feeling that you're not allowed to rest in average, even though it would be easier. That's my hand, pushing you into alignment. You think these interruptions in your plan are setbacks, but I'm the one interrupting, because if I didn't keep showing you glimpses, you'd settle for less than what I created you to walk in. I've used strangers, scriptures, songs, and situations not just to comfort you, but to confirm direction. And I didn't send those confirmations just to encourage you. I sent them to awaken your obedience. Because you cannot keep asking for signs and then treating them like background noise. You are standing in the middle of a holy pattern, a divine thread running through every moment you once called random, and I am calling you to stop second-guessing what I've already confirmed. You don't need another hint. You need to act on the clarity I've already poured out. And yes, I will always walk with you. Yes, I am patient. But I will not keep repeating myself to a heart that refuses to believe. What you call confusion is often delayed courage. And today, I am removing every excuse you've been hiding behind, the fear, the uncertainty, the waiting for a bigger sign, because my voice is not lacking. It's your faith that needs to rise to the volume I'm speaking at. I'm not speaking in riddles. I've been playing. I've been persistent. But your comfort with the familiar has made you hesitant to interpret my movement as intentional. It ends now. I'm exposing the illusion that you need more proof. You don't need more proof. You need more trust. You don't need a louder sign. You need to silence the voices trying to convince you that what's clear is confusing. I have lit up your path with clarity after clarity. I have placed confirmation after confirmation in front of you. And yet you stand at the edge, asking me to repeat what I've already declared. This isn't about whether I'll say it again. This is about whether you'll finally say yes to what I already said. It's time to stop praying for signs when your life is full of them. The next move is not mine. It's yours. I've confirmed. I've guided. I've led. And I'll walk. And when you do, everything will begin to unfold, not because of chance, but because you finally chose to call confirmation what it is, my undeniable invitation to step into everything I've prepared for you. You've mistaken the inner unrest for uncertainty, but I need you to see it for what it truly is. Divine pressure. The pull you feel in your soul. The heaviness that won't let you stay settled where you are. The sense that something is closing, and even when everything around you appears still, that's not confusion, child. That's me, placing a demand on your decision, because the time to choose has arrived. And I'm not speaking in riddles. I've already shown you what to do. But now, I'm allowing the discomfort to increase, not to punish you, but to push you. Because left to your own pattern, you would stay in a cycle of hesitation. You've delayed not because you didn't understand, but because you were afraid to step without seeing the full picture. But I'm telling you, again, and with urgency, the picture will only unfold when you move. This feeling inside of you, that something is shifting, that your current space no longer fits, that you're standing in between seasons, is not instability. It's a divine pivot, a moment where neutrality is no longer an option. I have brought you to a spiritual crossroads, and every moment of delay makes the path forward heavier. Not because the door is closed, but because you were never meant to linger here this long. The urgency is not because I am impatient. It's because I know what's coming. I see the battle forming on the horizon, and I'm trying to prepare you before the wave hits. You think you need more clarity, but I've already given you the instruction. What you need now is to act while the moment is still open. Because if you sit too long in tension, it turns into torment, and the enemy will use your delay to seed confusion where I intended conviction. This is why the weight hasn't lifted, because you haven't yet responded to what I told you to do. I haven't been silent. I've been consistent. And the pressure you're feeling is not because I've abandoned you, but because I'm drawing you out of indecision. You are not in limbo. You are in labor. And labor demands that something comes forth. It's painful. It's intense. But it has a purpose. And that purpose is to push you beyond comfort into completion. You can't stay in the middle. You can't keep both doors open. You can't walk forward while gripping what I'm asking you to release. I am not allowing peace in your indecision because I don't want you to make this place your home. You were not designed to live in almost. You were created to walk in fullness. And fullness only comes on the other side of obedience. I am urging you, not with threat but with divine urgency, to choose. The prompting won't fade because it's not emotional. It's spiritual. I'm calling you to maturity, to courage, a movement. You don't need 1,000 confirmations. You need one act of surrender. Let the weight push you to your knees, not into paralysis. Let the pressure move you to my presence, where clarity becomes action and fear loses its grip. I'm not warning you to cause panic. I'm speaking to prevent regret. If you do not decide, you will look back on this season and realize the opportunity passed while you were weighing what I already made plain. But if you move now, even with trembling hands and an uncertain heart, you will step into the grace I've already prepared for those who trust me beyond what makes sense. The tension will not break you, it will birth you. But only if you stop treating it like confusion and respond to it as a holy invitation to finally move. You've been measuring your readiness by your feelings, waiting until the fear is gone, until the road looks safe, until the doubts disappear. But I never required flawless confidence, only willingness. I'm not expecting you to have every question answered, every emotion settled, or every weakness conquered. I'm looking for movement in the middle of uncertainty. You've made progress in the private places, through prayers whispered in the dark, through moments of silent surrender, through quiet trust when everything around you screamed doubt, and now, I'm calling for your next step. Not because I need proof of your devotion, but because your obedience will unlock what your overthinking has been delaying. You keep telling yourself you're not ready, that you need more time, more growth, more reassurance. But I need you to understand that growth happens in the going, that maturity comes through momentum, not perfection. You will never feel 100% certain, and that's why I asked you to live by faith, not by control. You heard me clearly. You felt the weight of this call. You sensed the nudge every time you tried to turn away. But you've also been waiting for all fear to leave before you say yes. And I'm telling you now, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to move anyway. I don't need you to be strong. I need you to be willing. I don't need you to have it all figured out. I need you to trust that I do. Every time you hold back, waiting for a more convenient moment, you allow the enemy to build doubt where I planted conviction. And yet I've not given up on you. I've kept returning, kept reminding, kept stirring that same instruction in your spirit, not because I am frustrated, but because I know what's on the other side of your yes. And I know that once you step out, you'll see what I've been holding in reserve all along. You're not disqualified. You're not behind. You're not broken beyond use. You are simply standing at the edge of the unfamiliar, and that's exactly where I do my best work. Don't wait to feel fearless before you move, because many things I've called you to will require obedience before confidence. Some of the greatest victories in your life will come from moments where your voice trembled, your hands shook, your heart raced, but you obeyed anyway. And that kind of obedience is where miracles begin. That kind of obedience is where I step in and do what only I can. I'm not impressed by performance. I'm moved by surrender. I'm not watching for perfection. I'm looking for action, even if it's messy, even if it's unsure, even if you stumble. I'm not expecting you to leap flawlessly. I just need you to stop standing still. There's grace for every misstep. There's power for every weakness. There's covering for every exposed place. But there's no substitute for obedience. What you're about to step into is bigger than what you feel capable of, and that's the point. If you could handle it on your own, it wouldn't require faith. But I've orchestrated it to be beyond you, so you would rely on me entirely. So come, not when you feel ready, but when you know I'm calling. Come, not with perfect faith, but with willing hands and an open heart. Come, not because it all makes sense, but because my voice is the only confirmation you need. This is not about flawless execution. It's about bold obedience. And I am with you, even now, waiting for that first step to collide with my strength, and when it does, the path you fear will become the place of your greatest encounter with me. What I've positioned in front of you right now isn't ordinary, and it isn't something you can afford to keep postponing. This is a sacred moment, prepared with precision, carrying far more weight than what your eyes can see. And if you pause too long, if you lean again into fear disguised as logic, you may look back on this as the moment you allowed hesitation to rob you of something eternal. This isn't an opportunity dressed in flattery or fame. It's an opening carved through prayer, tears, warfare, and divine alignment. I've cleared pathways, removed blockages, and timed this door to appear in front of you now because the time is right. Not perfect, but prophetic. You don't realize how much has been layered into this season just to bring you here. You asked me for change. You pleaded for growth. You cried out for clarity. And in response, I built this moment, not to test you but to trust you. But with each delay, with every time you pull back for another round of consideration, you risk forfeiting something I designed to shift the entire trajectory of your purpose. This is not just about today. It's about the legacy that follows your obedience. Your yes right now holds the power to break generational chains, open pathways for others, and launch something far bigger than yourself. But it starts with movement. It starts with trust. It starts with the courage to act even when your knees are shaking. Don't let fear convince you that sitting still is safe. Stillness in the face of divine instruction is not safety, it's stagnation. And I can't bless what you're too afraid to step into. I'm not trying to rush you. I'm calling you to recognize what this moment really means. This isn't pressure from the world. This is invitation from heaven. I'm not placing something small in front of you. I'm putting something weighty, beautiful, and completely aligned with your destiny. But that means the cost is also real. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you approval from people who don't understand. It will cost you parts of yourself that were never meant to survive the next chapter. And yet, with all that it demands, what I'm offering is far more than you're letting yourself imagine. But you must open it now. If you ignore this prompting again, if you talk yourself into waiting for a better time or a safer atmosphere, the loss won't be my absence, but your delay. Because I won't force you. I will never push you into what requires your surrender. But I am telling you with all the urgency of love, the door is here. The chance is now. The weight you feel is not intimidation. It's the presence of purpose. It's your spirit recognizing that something sacred is being set in motion, and that your response has the power to either activate or suspend what I've been preparing for years. This is not the time to go silent. Not the time to rehearse reasons why you're not ready. Not the time to bury what I'm placing right in front of you because you fear the magnitude of it. This is the time to respond like you know my voice, to act like you trust my plan, to believe that what I'm presenting is not to overwhelm you but to elevate you. You don't have to see the full picture. You only have to say yes to what's in your hands now. And if you do, if you move this time instead of circling again, you'll discover that what I was offering was not just opportunity, it was fulfillment, calling, and the beginning of the very thing your soul has longed for. But the choice is yours. I've placed it in front of you. Don't let regret be the companion of your delay. There are seasons where I move publicly, where others celebrate your growth and witness your transformation. But this, child, is different. What I'm doing in you now is personal, hidden, and sacred. I've pulled you into a quiet place, not to isolate you in pain, but to insulate you for purpose. This assignment was never meant to be understood by the crowd. That's why I've allowed the misunderstanding, the separation, the silence from voices you once leaned on, not as rejection, but as redirection. I'm removing the distractions of human approval so you can hear my voice without filters. I know you've questioned why those you trusted couldn't see what's shifting in your spirit, why they seem distant, why they don't affirm the calling you sense me unfolding in you. But their absence is part of my design. They were not meant to validate what I planted in secret. Some things I reveal to you are too delicate for the opinions of those not assigned to walk this part with you. Their confusion is not your confirmation. Your silence does not signal my absence. I haven't asked you to explain this season. I've asked you to carry it. And yes, it's lonely at times. It feels like you're building something invisible while others move invisible success. But I want you to see the beauty in what I'm constructing behind the veil. You are being molded, not just for impact, but for endurance. And that molding can't happen under applause. It happens in a hidden place. You're not being delayed. You're being deeply developed. What I've placed in you carries a weight that most can't comprehend. And that's why I've pulled you aside, not to diminish you, but to distinguish you. You don't need their agreement to continue. You need my anointing, and I've already given it. I'm refining your hearing, deepening your discernment, strengthening your identity, so that when the time comes to emerge, you won't crumble under exposure. You'll be anchored in the truth I spoke to you when no one else was watching. That's why I'm speaking to you now, not through noise, but through whispers, because I'm building a foundation that can't be shaken by shifting crowds or fleeting opinions. I'm anchoring you in intimacy, not popularity, and that intimacy will be the well you draw from in future battles. I know the temptation is to seek validation, to explain yourself, to try to make others see what I'm doing in your life. But don't waste your strength defending a process they were never invited to participate in. This isn't for them. This is for you and me. A sacred contract being written in silence. A blueprint only your obedience can carry out. Your applause is not required. Their understanding is not essential. And their permission was never the foundation of your calling. I'm calling you to walk forward even when the path is invisible to others, because I'm the one who sees the whole road, not just the step in front of you. So, stop looking around. Start looking up. You don't need confirmation from the crowd when you've received a commission from the Creator. Trust me when I tell you, what I'm developing in the quiet will one day be undeniable in the open. But for now, carry it with reverence. Guard it with humility. Water it with prayer. And walk with the confidence of someone who knows that even if no one claps, even if no one watches, even if no one sees the cost, I see everything, and I am pleased. You've been praying for it, believing for it, even sensing it draw near. But now I need your participation. The shift you feel isn't just hope. It's the nearness of what's been released from heaven, already set into motion by my authority. The doors are not being built. They are already unlocked. But I won't carry you through them. I'm waiting for you to move toward what I've prepared. Too many times you've asked for the blessing but waited for it to walk to you, when I've always designed it to respond to your faith in motion. This is not about earning what I've promised. It's about aligning with it. Every seed you've sown, every obedient step you've taken, every act of trust when it was hard to breathe, it was not wasted. The answers are not behind you. They are not far off. They are right in front of you, waiting for you to close the gap between prayer and action. And I'm speaking this to you now because you are closer than you realize. You are on the edge, and your next act of obedience will collide with what I've already activated. But you must move. This is not the time for delay disguised as caution. This is not the season to question what I've already confirmed. I am not speaking to confuse you. I am speaking to commission you. You do not need to figure out every detail before you step. You only need to respond to what you already know is me. The longer you sit still, the more you train your heart to tolerate hesitation. But I've built you for boldness, not recklessness, but courage that acts when my voice speaks. And I have spoken, not in hints, not in riddles, but in clarity. Now it's your turn to respond with forward motion. I know you're afraid to get it wrong. I know the unknown feels threatening. But what I've set in motion will not pass you by if you move when I lead. I've already gone ahead of you. I've already touched the people who will favor you. I've already prepared the resources. I've already removed what would have resisted you. What you feared would block you has been dismantled. But you won't know that until you walk into it. You've waited long enough. You've asked me if it's time, and I'm saying now, with no delay, this is the moment to take the step. The waters won't part while you wait on the shore. They'll part the moment your foot moves. This is not the time to wait on another miracle. You are walking into one. But miracles often look like obedience first. I've already aligned the blessing. I'm watching to see if you'll align your movement with it. The blessing is not just provision, it's direction. It's favor waiting to land on the ground of your faith. This next chapter won't unfold because you stayed safe. It will unfold because you walked even when you weren't certain. And you will look back, not at the moment you prayed for it, but at the moment you moved toward it, and realize that was when the shift fully broke open. I've made the way. I've lit the path. And now, the blessing is waiting at the point where your belief becomes action. This is your moment to move. Don't let it pass by. Don't overthink what I've already made simple. Just take the step and watch what was invisible begin to manifest in front of your eyes. What you've been waiting for hasn't been denied. It's been disguised. I have hidden what you asked me for within a set of instructions that don't look like what you expected. You thought the breakthrough would arrive wrapped in ease, packaged in clarity, presented in a way that aligned with your preferences. But I'm doing something deeper, something more eternal than convenient. I have chosen to embed your answer inside an act of obedience that doesn't make sense to your natural mind. And now, I'm asking you to stop searching for the blessing in the usual places and start looking at the doors I've already pointed to, even if they don't look the way you imagined. You're waiting for lightning, but I'm moving through direction. You're looking for outcomes, but I'm speaking through instructions. And this is why you felt stuck, because you've been asking me to move while ignoring the step I already gave you. Your answer isn't far. It's close. It's just wearing the clothes of surrender. It's dressed in something unfamiliar, something that requires you to lean not on your understanding, but on your trust in me. I don't need you to understand the why. I need you to follow the what. I'm not hiding blessings from you. I'm hiding them for you, within the very thing you're reluctant to do. The task I've placed in front of you may seem small, but inside it is the key to everything you've been interceding for. The reason it feels so insignificant is because you're viewing it through the lens of comfort, not kingdom. I don't work according to man's metrics. I operate from eternal perspective. And when I hide something valuable, I place it where only obedience can uncover it. If you're looking for the visible before you respond to the invisible, you'll miss the entire point. This is not about logic. This is about faith. Faith to do what seems unrelated. Faith to say yes without evidence. Faith to take the action that feels opposite of what your feelings prefer. Do you remember how I used clay to heal blind eyes? How I multiplied loaves in the hands of those who simply passed them out? I'm still the same, and I still use unlikely methods to deliver undeniable miracles. And right now, I am speaking to your heart, pulling you into a place of response, not reaction, where you stop trying to predict how I'll show up and start simply responding to what I've already placed before you. The instruction may not feel exciting. It may not draw attention. But if it came from me, it carries power. I've encoded provision into obedience. The blessing is not coming after the step. It's contained inside the step. And if you'll open it, if you'll trust that I know what I'm doing even when you don't, you'll discover that the very thing you thought would delay you is actually the thing that unlocks everything. I am not late. I am waiting. Waiting for you to shift from questioning to trusting. Waiting for you to take what looks like a detour and realize it's the direct route. I've been speaking, guiding, placing the pieces in motion, but I will not force you to follow. This is a partnership, and your role is to respond with faith, even when the instructions seem insignificant or confusing. You don't need the full picture to obey. You need to believe that I've never misled you, and I'm not starting now. So take the step. Unwrap the instructions. Follow the promptings you've been brushing aside. That's where your answer is hiding, not in the dramatic, but in the deliberate. What I've placed before you is not a trap, nor is it a test designed to confuse you. It is a revealed way, a prepared path, a divine invitation marked by my wisdom and sealed with my presence. You asked me to lead you, and I have. I didn't just hear your cry. I responded with clarity. I've unfolded direction through moments you didn't expect, through signs you didn't think were significant, through subtle stirrings that pierced your spirit. But I will never override your choice. This is where many stop, at the revelation of my will, hoping I will also carry them into it without cost. But I'm not the God of forced obedience. I am the God of faithful guidance. And now that I've shown you what's next, I am standing back to see if you will walk it out or wait for a more comfortable option. But child, there will be no easier version of my will. There will be no second route that bypasses the need for courage. What I've laid out in front of you may not appear wide, but it is the right way. It may not sparkle with instant reward, but it is the road to lasting fruit. I don't make paths that cater to ease. I make paths that carry weight. And the one you see before you, even if narrow, even if steep, was created to carry you into fulfillment. You keep asking me to make it obvious, and I already have. The tug in your spirit, the unrest with staying still, the repeated confirmations in unexpected places, that's not coincidence, that's me. But what you do with that clarity is what shapes your outcome. You are standing in a divine moment where you must decide if you want to be guided or carried. I'll never drag you across the threshold of my promises. I will call you, equip you, and walk with you. But the first step will always be yours. This is where you exchange wondering for walking. This is where you silence the questions and rise in trust. I've never called someone into their purpose without giving them the choice to decline. And right now, your future isn't waiting on a better map. It's waiting on movement. The clarity you want more of is found in the places your feet are afraid to go. I reveal more as you move, not while you wait. I give strength as you walk, not while you sit in fear. That's how I've always worked. With Abraham, with Moses, with every servant I've ever sent. Their clarity didn't come before the journey. It came in the journey. And I'm no different with you. I'm not waiting for you to feel ready. I'm waiting for you to obey even when you feel weak. And here's what I want you to understand. The path I've shown you is not fragile. You will break it with your uncertainty. You won't ruin it if you tremble. It was made for you to grow on, to learn on, to discover me in new dimensions. I'm not watching you to criticize your pace. I'm watching to see if your yes was real. Because knowing what to do and doing it are not the same. Revelation is a gift, but obedience is the door. You have the gift. Now I'm calling for the door to open. I have more for you than insight. I have impact, increase, and influence tied to this path. But I will not place it in your hands if your feet refuse to move. So I stand here now, not demanding but inviting. Will you take the road I've made visible? Will you trust the direction even when the destination feels distant? I will walk with you every step, but I will not walk for you. The path is open. The choice is yours. And your next step is what determines what unfolds next. You've pleaded for change, wept for release, and longed for something greater, and now I am responding. But my rescue does not always look like escape. Sometimes it comes as an invitation to leave what has grown comfortable. I heard your cries in the late-night hours, the silent desperation you couldn't voice to anyone else. I saw the weight you carried behind your smile, the exhaustion behind your strength. And I've never ignored a single tear. But now that I've begun moving on your behalf, I need you to recognize that the very thing you begged me to free you from may also be the thing you've learned to tolerate. And now I'm calling you out, not away from love but into it. I'm leading you from patterns that numbed your faith, from cycles that fed your fears, from environments that dulled your sensitivity to my spirit. You were never meant to remain in places that only knew the old version of you. You were never created to stay hidden under the expectations of others who couldn't perceive the call that rests upon your life. So when I say I'm rescuing you, I'm not just delivering you from hardship, I'm removing you from limitations. That's why it feels uncomfortable. That's why things that once seemed stable are suddenly shaking. I'm not punishing you. I'm positioning you. The stretching you feel is me expanding your spirit beyond the confinement of routine. You've prayed for more, and now I'm leading you out of less. But I cannot drag you. I would override your will. You have to be willing to walk away from what you've outgrown. You have to trust that I'm not leading you into emptiness, but into a life that carries the fullness of who I designed you to be. You're not losing everything. You're being realigned with something higher. You've been bound to things that no longer nourish your purpose, and now I'm breaking the ties. The friction you're feeling isn't a sign to stop. It's a signal to follow. I've been stirring your spirit, making you restless in the places where your growth is being stifled. That's intentional. I will not let you build a permanent home in a temporary space. I'm calling you to step beyond the borders of what's predictable. I'm offering you a future that doesn't match your past. But you must stop looking backward for assurance when I'm speaking forward with direction. I know you're scared. I know it's easier to stay in what's known than to follow me into the unknown. But remember, familiarity isn't the same as safety. You can't be free and still cling to the things that held you. You can't walk into new life while dragging dead weight. This moment is your answer, but it's wrapped in unfamiliar instructions. And your willingness to let go will determine what you're able to receive. I've already opened the way. I've already placed favor ahead of your footsteps. But now you must match your prayer for deliverance with the decision to move. Your identity is not found in where you were. It's in where I'm taking you. And while you can't see the full picture, I'm only asking for one step. One act of trust. One choice to say yes to where I'm leading, even when everything inside you wants to stay where it's safe. I didn't create you to survive in captivity. I formed you to thrive in freedom. But freedom costs you the comfort of your cage. And right now, I'm placing the key in your hand. Will you walk out? Will you believe that the cry for help I heard is the very cry I'm now answering with this call to come higher? This is not just rescue, it's redemption. This is the new beginning you've asked for. And it starts with leaving behind what you no longer need. What I'm calling you into isn't built on the same foundation you've been standing on. It's higher. It's deeper. It's purer. But to step into it, you must be willing to release your grip on what you've been using to feel safe. The systems, routines, expectations, even the versions of yourself you've constructed to survive. I know what you're leaving feels steady, dependable, even sacred in some ways. But just because something worked in one season doesn't mean it belongs in the next. I'm not asking you to dishonor the past. I'm asking you not to idolize it, The place you're in now was never meant to become your final resting place. It was a training ground, a shaping field, a place of preparation. And now I'm calling you forward, not because where you are is bad, but because where you're going is better. But better isn't always immediately comfortable. Better often looks like letting go of things that gave you a sense of control. And this is where your faith must rise above familiarity. I've given you glimpses. I've whispered the shift. I've stirred your heart in ways you can no longer ignore. Yet you stand at the threshold torn, not between good and evil, but between comfort and calling. You're not choosing between destruction and destiny, you're choosing between maintenance and movement. And child, I didn't breathe life into you so you could maintain what I called you to leave. I didn't awaken your spirit so you could remain in environments that no longer reflect the magnitude of what I've placed inside you. This moment is about trust. Trust that what I have for you is more than what you're holding. Trust that I am the anchor, not the things you've clung to. Because some of what you've labeled as secure has simply been a distraction with a disguise. It has kept you busy while numbing your awareness of how small the space around you has become. I've watched you adjust your size to fit where you no longer belong. I've seen you dim your light to avoid unsettling the comfort of others. But I didn't call you to blend in. I called you to break ground. I didn't shape you in secret just so you could stay silent. There is more, but it cannot coexist with what you refuse to release. I'm not tearing something away from you. I'm teaching you how to step into what I've already prepared. But the door that leads there cannot be entered with your hands full. And I will not pry things out of your grasp. You must choose to place them down. I know it's risky. I know it feels like stepping off the edge of certainty into the unknown. But the unknown to you is fully known to me. I have not only seen what's ahead, I've created it. I've built the road, assigned the timing, prepared the pavilion, aligned the people. Everything you think you will lose is already waiting for you in greater measure where I'm leading. But first, the release. This next chapter cannot be built on the scaffolding of what used to hold you. I'm not trying to rebuild your comfort. I'm constructing your calling. And that will require a new structure, one that rests fully on me, not on anything you used to depend on. This is where your next begins, in the decision to trust me over everything you've trusted before. You don't need to know how it will all unfold. You just need to move. Let go of what you're holding, so I can fill your hands with what's always been yours. The secure place isn't the one you've built. It's the one I'm leading you into. Will you follow me there? You keep pausing, hoping that if you wait long enough, the fog will lift, the full blueprint will appear, and every unanswered question will resolve itself neatly. But that is not how I work. I never promised clarity before obedience. I promised myself. I never said the path would always be lit from beginning to end. I said I would be a lamp to your feet, a light to your step, not to your whole plan. Right now, you're hesitating because you don't feel ready. You want confirmation on top of confirmation, signs beyond what I've already shown you. But I need you to understand something. When I call you to step, I also call you to trust. And trust rarely waits for perfect understanding. If it did, it wouldn't be trust. I've already begun to stir your heart, to whisper what's next. You feel it, that quiet push, that relentless nudge that keeps you awake at night, that conviction that's growing stronger, not weaker. That is me. And no matter how you try to reason your way out of it, no matter how long you try to delay, my voice will not grow silent. It will only grow clearer, louder, until you can no longer deny what you already know. I'm not calling you to jump blindly. I'm calling you to follow the one who sees what's around every corner, who knows how this ends, who has already walked into your tomorrow and prepared it for your arrival. The problem is not that I haven't spoken, it's that you're afraid to believe it without full proof. You keep asking, but what if I fail? Child, what if you fly? What if the very step you fear to take is the one that changes everything? The enemy wants to paralyze you with what ifs, but I have never called you to live under the weight of hypothetical defeat. I've called you to walk in supernatural courage, the kind that doesn't need everything to make sense in order to move. Did Noah understand everything when he started building? Did Abraham know all the details when he left everything behind? Did Peter have time to think through the physics of walking on water? No, but they trusted the one who called. And now it's your turn. Your delay is costing you more than you realize. Every moment you spend waiting for perfect clarity is a moment where fear wins. But I did not give you a spirit of fear. I gave you power. I gave you a sound mind. I gave you authority to move even when everything inside you screams to stay put. You think you need more signs, but what you really need is courage. The door is open, but it won't remain open forever. There's a time for waiting, and there's a time for walking. And I'm telling you, this is your time to walk. No more stalling. No more procrastinating in the name of prayer when I already answered. I didn't bring you this far to abandon you in confusion. The step you're afraid to take is the very one I'll use to increase your faith, to unlock new dimensions of trust, to usher you into rooms you could never reach with comfort alone. I will meet you in motion. I will show up when you step. But you must make the move. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be obedient. Trust me with the next small yes, and I will handle everything that follows. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm asking you to believe. And if you will do that, I promise, you'll see things unfold that no amount of planning could have created. Stop waiting for all the answers. Follow the one who is the answer. You begged me to move, to shift things, to bring change. And now, change has arrived. But it hasn't shown up in the shape you expected. It's come wrapped in unfamiliarity, cloaked in discomfort, surrounded by tension you weren't prepared for. And now you're questioning if this can really be my answer, because in your mind, an answered prayer should feel like peace, not pressure. But I need you to look deeper. I need you to stop assessing my presence by how easy the moment feels. I've never guaranteed you comfort. I promised you growth. I never said following me would always feel safe. I said it would make you stronger. What you're standing in right now may feel unstable, but it is sacred. It's the very ground you once cried for, the beginning of the breakthrough you couldn't stop praying about. And yes, it's messy. Yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's unfamiliar. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. In fact, the weight of what you're feeling is proof of how significant this moment really is. You're stepping into the threshold of something that's bigger than you, something that stretches you beyond what you thought you could handle. And it's in this exact space, in the tension, in the unfamiliar, in the stretching, that I do my best work. You're not failing. You're not off track. You're not lost. You're in transition. And transitions are never neat. They are wild, unpredictable, and holy. I never meant for you to run from the process. I meant for you to meet me in it. You think you need everything to feel calm to believe it's me. But child, I was in the storm. I was in the fire. I was in the wrestling. And I am in this too. This moment may not feel like the arrival of an answer, but I assure you, it is the door to what you've been crying for. You just have to recognize that not all miracles are immediate. Some begin with movement. Some begin with surrender. Some begin with discomfort that leads to transformation. You are not here by accident. This stretch was scheduled. This challenge was allowed not to crush you, but to call something out of you that's been buried under routine and self-protection. I am awakening the fighter in you. I am stirring up your spirit again. You asked me to grow you, and I'm doing it through the very thing you want to run from. Don't retreat now. Don't mislabel this as failure. It's favor. It just doesn't feel like it because favor doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with resistance. But that resistance is building you. You may not feel strong, but you're becoming strong. You may not feel prepared, but you're being prepared. And as you walk through this, I will walk with you. I will not let you fall apart. I will not leave you in the middle of the stretching. But I won't let you go back either. What I have for you cannot be found in the place you left behind. The comfort you crave is not worth the calling you'd lose. So hold your ground, even if your hands are shaking, even if your voice trembles, even if your thoughts are flooded with doubt. I am not asking you to feel confident. I'm asking you to keep walking, one step at a time, one breath at a time. You're further than you think, and I promise, what's coming will make the battle worth it. Just don't walk away from the very thing you once begged me to begin. You're not in trouble. You're in transition. And I'm not just in it with you. I'm the one who started it. And I'll finish it. I see how you keep asking me for one more sign, one more dream, one more word to make it feel easier to believe. But my beloved, I've already spoken, and the delay is no longer about waiting for me. It's about whether you're willing to trust what I've already revealed. I know you're not trying to disobey. You're just afraid to misstep. You're scared of choosing wrong, scared of failing, scared that if you make a move, everything could collapse. But that fear is not coming from me. I've never led you by dread. I've always led you with peace, and right now, you're not lacking direction. You're simply afraid to step out with what you already carry. You want me to show you everything at once, but what you're asking for would remove the need for faith. And I'm not interested in building your sense of control. I'm here to cultivate your trust. That's why the next part won't be revealed until you walk. Not because I'm hiding it from you, but because I've designed it to unfold only through your movement. That's how this story works. This journey you're on isn't built on predictable steps. It's built on obedience. And the longer you hesitate, the more you begin to confuse clarity with comfort. You think, if it's really from God, it will feel easy. But look at my son. Look at how he walked, not around pain, but through it. Look at how he obeyed, even when it cost everything. This is not about whether or not you'll encounter fear, it's about whether you'll follow me through it. I'm not asking you to eliminate your fears before you move. I'm asking you to move while trusting me more than the fear. You've already heard my whisper. You've already sensed my stirring. You've already seen the signs, the shifts, the gentle disruptions that are nudging you forward. But you're standing still, waiting for certainty, hoping for a miracle that feels like safety. And now I'm telling you plainly, the miracle is in your motion. The breakthrough is on the other side of obedience. You will not get the next instruction while sitting in hesitation. The path lights up when you walk it, not while you sit and analyze it. This is where you prove you believe me. Not just with your lips, but with your steps. I'm not angry at your pause, but I cannot allow you to stay here. Too much has been poured into you. Too much has been placed on you. Too many promises are tied to your yes. The door is open. The time is now. And while you keep waiting for another moment, I've already declared this moment as sacred. This is your now. The longer you wait, the heavier it feels, not because the assignment changed, but because the weight of delayed obedience always turns into pressure. I want to release you from that pressure. But it takes action. It takes surrender. It takes believing that I wouldn't lead you to the edge of this mountain unless I had already prepared the ground you're about to walk on. I am not teasing you with possibility. I am ushering you into fulfillment. And even if you don't feel prepared, know this: I've prepared everything around you. I've aligned what's necessary. I've ordered what's required. And even what you lack, I will fill in as you go. You are not alone in this. You are not being pushed into the unknown by yourself. I'm not watching from afar, I'm leading from within. You're not about to fall. You're about to find out what happens when you finally trust me over your fear. But the invitation will not force itself upon you. You must respond. So stop asking for signs when I've already sent my presence. Stop delaying when I've already delivered the instruction. It's time to walk. I'm waiting on the other side of your obedience. Amen.